Hello, and welcome back to the Money Making Mamas Show. I'm Nancy Wallace-Laabs,
And I'm Kelcie Leka.
and we're very excited. Kelcie, are you excited?
Mm-hmm.
It's our first podcast of 2026. Yes, it's February 17th. We're a little behind the eight ball, but we have been super busy rebranding.
Mm-hmm.
Kelcie, what have we been doing?
We've been doing a lot. I think just between personal and business, we've been doing a lot. But I can't even remember when our last one was. So it's been a while. So the holidays, and then we did a rebranding photo shoot with, and I love them. They turned out so good. We used photography by Kylie. So if you're local Dallas area, she has her own studio, which is really nice. And then we've just been, taking those photos, and then we redid all of our social medias and wrote a book.
And we have another book coming out.
Yeah.
We have been so busy. And we've also rebranded a little bit on our messaging too,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So after, I don't know, been doing this for coming up on 2 years. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, almost. Okay, a few
Almost.
months.
Maybe a year and a half.
But one of the things I'm excited about is we're going to kind of go back to my roots of single family homes as an investment,
Yeah.
because what we found was that it was confusing for people about we were,
Yeah.
talking about all these different strategies, and not that you can't learn them along the way, but
Hmm.
even when you and I started, you were like, "What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?" And so I think that that's kind of hard for people to follow.
Well, and I think that one of the biggest questions we got outside of like, oh, how do you make money was, do you just work with moms? We did at first because if if you've been listening and you know us, that's where our story started and wanting to help other moms. But then at the end of the day, we got like, can dads do it? Can single people do it? I don't have kids. Can I do it? And I think that was another thing too. And then we really started looking back at both of our roots and ultimately ended up with no, we'd started doing this to get out of the corporate world, like both of us. And so now it's just we've, kind of opened it up. Like we're still the mamas who make money um by real estate investing, but now, we've just kind of tailored it a little bit to obviously if moms want that, but now if others want to get out of the corporate world like we did using
Yes.
real estate investing,
Yeah, so
that's
we're
where we
calling
help.
it like, if you're paycheck dependent,
Mhm.
right? And so how do you move from having the full-time job
Yeah.
like you did? I mean, that's your story. And then how do you just not quit your job? Because obviously when you have that paycheck, there's
Yeah.
stability and you feel good about it. And, everybody needs money to pay bills. So you can't just jump
Yeah.
from how do I, have a full-time job to not. So I
Well,
think
and, like, not even paycheck dependency, but it's like, oh, okay, building my retirement fund and having health insurance and things like that, those things that you don't think about, but those are still possible outside of a corporate world position. And I think, looking back now, even if I didn't have kids, I think I would still want to try to get out of it because I love just kind of being able to do what I wanna do and not living by that 9 to 5 grind.
exactly, and so
Mhm.
we've had some more, and we'll be talking about it this year, but there's some more opportunities that have opened up because, I have a property management background, so that's I wrote a book called Simple Property Management, and I did it
Mhm.
for 10 years, and so when we looked at it, it's like, okay, that's really where my expertise lies is in,
Yeah.
how to find and fund and get those rental properties. So
Mhm.
today I thought it would be fun to kind of take your example of how you left it and
Mhm.
actually use numbers. So people are going to need pen and paper unless you can just remember this.
Mhm.
And I have notes because I wasn't going to be able to remember all
Yeah.
of this. So what we did is we are going to have notes in our laps today, but I thought it would be fun. And we're just going to talk about, I have talked to so many people that say, I'm going to wait, or I'm still searching, or they, have watched one more YouTube video, which we
Yeah.
do have, out there. And then it's like, well, why aren't people taking the jump? Right.
Mhm.
And I don't think that we've connected the dots about, it's great to do. I just talked to a lady a couple weeks ago, and she's been to a bunch of different 3-day workshops,
Yeah.
and she's watched a bunch of videos, and she
Mhm.
talked to me, and she downloaded our free stuff. And I just said to her, I was like, well, what is it that you're waiting for?
Yeah.
And she just, I think it was that confusion, the fear,
Yeah.
not really knowing what to do. And I was like, well, have you ever just thought about going into single family? So then that made me think, you know, what does it cost people
Yeah.
not to even look at buying their first rental property? So that's what we're
Mhm.
going to talk about today. I
Okay.
called it the compound effect, which I know Darren Hardy wrote. Was it not Darren Hardy that wrote a book called The Compound
I
Effect?
think so.
Yeah, who you met a few years ago.
Yes.
Well, before we move on to the compound effect and waiting, because you and I have been talking about time, and you just had a major milestone with your son,
Yes.
my grandson.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess on a personal level too, I now have a 4-year-old, which is wild to think about because when we started this, he was like 2. And like Toby was like when I started, we're looking back at like roots when I started like wanting to do my own thing and get out of the corporate world and be with my kids more, like Toby wasn't even a year old. Like, which is wild to think about. So, anyways, yeah, he is 4 years old now, and, it seemed to his 4-year-oldness is so fun, and, like, he loves anything Avengers, but those listening skills are really testing me. And
But
then
but I thought it was very telling because you asked me a question the other day. Do you remember that question that you asked me about time?
yeah, I said, "How do you make it slow down?"
And I said, well, I have probably more time in front of me than I do
Mhm.
behind me, or vice versa, more behind me than I do.
But you wanna know something? Okay, because this kinda, like, ties into, like, what we're talking about, what our message is, and, what we're kinda standing for. So, yeah, as a mom and, like, my sole focus is my kids, I stay home with them, they're littles, we just potty trained Toby, like, all those things, and, yeah, I really struggle with and I'm sure a lot of moms and other people do, of, like, time going by so fast, especially when you're older. Well, I actually read an article. I don't know how much this is, like, actually true, but it kinda makes sense. So, they were talking about when you're a kid, every day is like a new experience. So, your brain really records those memories. They really like, "Okay, this day was different than this day," and so forth. So, our childhood seems longer because we have new experiences more often, and then the older you get, the less new experiences you have, so your brain doesn't record it. But so again, going Monday through Friday to a 9 to 5 job and doing that same exact thing, well, your brain already knows it, so it's not recording it. So if you're not living every day differently, then yes, time feels almost faster because your brain has no purpose of recording every single day that's the same.
That's awesome.
Okay, short little intermission there. I don't know what happened to that, so
So if you're
apologies.
watching, yeah,
Yeah,
if you're watching it, you'll see our ceiling a little bit
or
instead of
just ignore
us.
me. Yeah,
We did
so
get a new camera. That was the other thing we did. So
yes, yes, yeah.
we're learning.
So,
Okay,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
so
You were talking about time and your
yes.
brain's not recording.
Yes, so yeah, so anyways, going back to that, like, I just feel like I've been trying to, like, live every day differently, and that wouldn't have been possible if I had been doing corporate jobs still with my kids, because it would literally look like the same thing every single day, Monday through Friday. So, yeah, so I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, so I think it's such a good topic today. So
Mhm,
what we're going to do is I've got some notes here, and I
mhm,
did these are going to be averages based on but we're going to use kind of Kelsey and what she did. And when I was really when she came to me and said, okay, the whole corporate job, how can I leave it? I don't even know why we never even talked about this part before, but we're actually going to walk you through the numbers that I shared with her. And I'm going to be talking about the compound cost of waiting. So our average demographic that listen to our podcast show and that we work with, not that we don't work with younger or older, but is around 35 to 55, right?
mhm.
So it's a good range there.
Oh, man, keep talking.
And so Kelsey, when you were working, we've talked about that you had your corporate job and you had a salary, and then you had you got commissions and whatnot. Based on my research, I think this kind of aligned with what you were making, which was 70 grand. That was your base salary a year, right?
Mhm,
Okay. So what I said is, and that's a pretty good income, and that seems stable, right? You got that paycheck every week or what. I think that ended up being like, I don't know, 1,300 or something and some change before taxes and all of this stuff. So I said, okay, well, if you want to invest in a single family buy and hold,
Mhm.
right? And so we're going to use that example today of like the average price of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. And what I did is instead of being specific to the DFW area, which we're in, I thought, well, it'd be good. Like if we have listeners, it's going to be kind of an average. So these
Mhm.
numbers are going to be average. So average across the US for our example today, we're going to be talking about a purchase price of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home for around $300,000.
Mhm.
Now, you and I have talked about this. Or the ARV, but we're just gonna leave it to 300,000. You could maybe pay more or less. The average interest rate as we're recording this today for an investment property is right at 6.75, so it's not, like, really bad, right?
Yeah.
Uh, the conservative net cash flow we're gonna talk about is gonna be $300 a month, which is quite doable. And I want to clarify, we're talking about buy and hold strategy, not flipping, right? So this is you
Mhm.
buy it, you renovate it, whatever you need to do, and you put a tenant in it. So it's considered stabilized rental income with professional management. Okay, which the professional management comes from me because that's what I used to do for 10 years. So what we're going to do is if you take that $300 a month cash flow,
Mhm.
that's $3,600 a year. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's one number that we're going to talk about. That's actually 5%. So remember, the topic is how can I move out of my corporate job? How do I
Yep.
replace that? So just on that cash flow alone, that's 5% of that 70,000. So we're not
Mhm.
there yet, right?
Yep.
But then if you look at the other things besides cash flow, there's appreciation. So the average appreciation, that means if I bought a property for 300, how much is it going to be worth next year or the year after? Real estate almost always goes up in value, right?
Mhm.
So the average appreciation rate is 4% for the United States. So if you take that 300,000 times point 0.4, that's a $12,000 increase in the value of that. So
Right.
now that property is worth 312,000.
Mhm.
So that total wealth gain that you're going to get is the $3,600 in cash flow plus the $12,000. Okay, it's not actual money, but it's actual value, right? So that's 12,000. So now we're talking about 15,600 annual wealth growth. Okay, that's
Okay.
just for 1 year, one property.
Yeah.
So you know what? That ends up, okay, here we go, statistics, 22% now of the 70,000. So
Mhm.
we're about a fourth way of realizing the value of your annual salary, okay, from just one rental property. Now, then you have the loan payment, so when you get it rented, so you're actually going to see about, depending on, when you get started, but about a $3,000 to $4,000 principal reduction in what you owe on the property. Okay, there we go. That then moves that total wealth movement closer to 19,000 because you're going to be paying it down. You get what I'm saying there?
Yep.
So, okay, you get paying it down. So now, what does that really mean? What is the cost if you wait 1 year? Okay, what's going to be $19,000?
Mhm.
So for every year on this example that you wait and don't take action to buy that first rental property, you're missing out on earning $19,000 of wealth. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say what happens if you waited 3 years, which we
Mhm.
know people have. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. So I've
Mhm.
I've been talking to a lady, okay, it's going on 8 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, sweet person, has the money to invest, just hasn't. Just in the first 3 years, she's lost out on 10,800 in cash flow.
Mhm.
And I didn't even include rent increases, which, if you
Right.
right? And then appreciation loss, 36,000.
Mm.
So at the end of 3 years, that $300,000 property is now worth 336,000. And the principal reduction, which means you're making payments on the principal on your loan, is gonna be 10,000. So that's over $55,000 in 3 years.
Yeah.
1 rental property.
That you're leaving on
1,
the table.
okay? So that's almost the whole 70,000, right? Now, what if you delayed buying a rental property for 5 years? I'm not gonna go through every single number, but that after 5 years of waiting is 100 grand,
Mm.
100 grand just by not taking any action, $100,000. And that could be the down payment on like not just one property, but 2 properties. So is that crazy?
I mean, yes, to leave that on the table. For
Yeah, I
sure.
mean, it is,
Mhm.
and, one of the questions that I just ponder and I ask people this, "Why are you waiting?
Yeah.
Why are you waiting? I mean, you're responsible,
Mhm.
what is holding you back?" So I don't know, I think waiting feels safe for people, I think.
Oh, yeah. I
You
would
know,
definitely agree with that.
they
Like,
think
it's
it's so risky, but wait till I get into some other numbers here.
Mhm. Well, I think that was it for me, like, I felt like it was very risky right off the bat, but then doing the numbers, sitting down and like, "Oh, no, that makes sense," and, what do they say? When you buy a car, like, the first second it hits the streets, like, the depreciation goes down, but with real estate, it always goes up.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Mhm.
Well, and just, okay, so most jobs, okay, so what was the highest raise that you ever got? I mean, like 5%? I mean,
Not even,
okay,
no,
yeah,
like
I mean,
2%.
I know my husband at his job, I mean, one year he got like 1%. I was like, "What's the
Mhm.
point?" Because
Yeah.
I think, first of all, that doesn't make you feel very good. And, the company's raking
Yeah.
it in, right? So, but I based it on 3%, right? I
Yeah.
think that's so if you were at that $70,000 job and you got a 3%, annual increase, it's 2,100. 2,100. Okay, remember I said cash flow alone,
Right.
3,600? So if you had kept your job, bought one rental property, and never got a raise, you'd still make more money than you would just
Yeah.
by having that one rental property.
Yeah.
So that's I think that's what I really want to convey in this show today is that you can wait and right now what's happening in the economy actually is a really good time. I mean, I think it's always a good time to buy single family homes just because people always need to rent. There will always be a need for rentals. But sometimes there's other alternatives that you can do, like, short term rentals or things like that.
So, I have a quick question,
Yeah.
and it goes back to numbers. Can you explain? Because I feel like this is something that was confusing for me at first. When we like, as a homeowner, like, especially before COVID, interest rates were, like, 2%, and then all of a sudden we jumped to, like, 6%, and, like, that's scary for as a homeowner. Why is that good for an investor?
The interest rate on when people buy home, so home ownership is a little bit different because you're usually talking about first-time home buyers, and
Mhm.
they don't have the income, right? Because
Mhm.
first-time home owners are younger. They're not usually established people. I mean, it's kinda changing. The reason in real estate investing, the interest rate so when I bought my first rental property, it was 6.5%.
Oh, well.
Today, it's only 7%.
Yep.
So the interest rates are always high, but it's 100% tax deductible.
Mm.
So I don't even mind, like, even if we buy a property that I can't get a regular loan for and I have to go hard money and I have to pay, like, I don't know, 10 or 11%. If it's a deal
Mm.
and I know I'm gonna make almost $20,000 in wealth on one property,
Yeah.
because the thing with single family is that because of the appreciation, you can always refinance.
Mm.
You can leverage it to, like you buy down the principal for, let's say, 5 years,
Mhm.
and you can go and refinance it and pull the cash out. So it's
Mhm.
cash out refi is what it's
Right.
called, and go and use that money. And that's how we were able to buy more property. So we cashed out refi, and then we took the equity that we had earned through appreciation, which is just wealth, and it's tax free when you do that.
Right.
So if you take out 30, $40,000 in cash from that rental property, you're not paying taxes on it. So now I can go and I have a way to buy another property and another property. And that's
Yes.
how people, because I remember when I bought my first rental and I was like, well, how do people do this? How do they
Mhm.
get the next one? And, I'm going to throw this statistic out. Of all of the rental properties in the United States, the majority of them, it's almost 80%. It's
Mm.
like 75 to 80% of all the rentals are owned by individual people like
Mm.
us, like mom and pops, they call them. They're not hedge funds. Hedge
Mhm.
funds own a lot. They're not companies. They own a lot. But the majority of rentals are owned by people like you and I, like our audience. And the cool thing is of that 75, let's just call it
Mhm.
75%, 89% of those people only own 1 to 2 rental properties. Yeah, and most millionaires, they built their wealth on single family rentals.
Mm.
So I really thought about, okay, what does it cost to wait? So if you are looking at buying, and most people, I don't know if 70,000 is too high for your area,
Mhm.
maybe you only make 50.
Yeah.
So even with that example, you'll still be ahead by just having the ability to get that first rental. And
Yeah.
that's really what we're going to be focusing on in 2026 is helping people buy their very first rental because once you buy that first rental, oh my gosh, you've just unlocked the way to leave your corporate job. You don't have to, and or maybe you want to stay there. You stayed, I stayed for a little bit, but then when you see that key go in that lock, for your first rental, I
Mhm.
think that that just is so empowering for people.
Yeah.
And when you break it down and say, you know what, you don't have to own 10, you don't have to own 5, you only need to own one, and
Yep.
you will be on your way. And so just remember, if you take anything away from today, just know that every day, like Kelsey was saying,
Mhm.
if you're not recording that new, what did you call it?
Like a memory,
A
like our
memory.
new experience.
So you can watch a YouTube video, but actually about, buying a rental house, but actually going out and looking at them or talking to someone that has experience
Yep.
like us,
I think that'll stick with you more.
it'll stick with you more.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, Kelsey, do you have any questions? Because we're going to make we're really going to just kind of stick to um, the compound way today.
No, I think, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, like, when I was first when me and Zach were first starting to learn investing in real estate, the numbers can be very intimidating, and you're like, "Well, what does this number mean? What do you mean, like, 15,000 in wealth? Like, what," and all that stuff, and so I think just breaking it down, like, just how we did right now is very helpful, at least that was helpful for us to learn, and so I don't wanna overwhelm people with any,
Yeah.
more information, and just have to tune in to next one to.
Well, I think so, and also in the description, I'm gonna have this example. We'll put
Mhm.
that in there so you can kinda see the numbers for yourself.
Right.
Yeah, and then, our master class is kind of around that too.
Well, and let's talk about Own It really quick. Our practical path out of the rat race through. So that also kind of breaks down a little bit, and it's 17, right?
Yes.
So that's just kind of another simple tool that we have in our back pockets that can help break down the initial processes of investing in real estate.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, that's a good, segue, so
Yes,
well
and, back to, we've been busy and all that, so obviously new if you're watching, you'll see new, podcast room,
yes.
and so little technical difficulties, we got a new camera, and I guess it, like, tracks
Yeah,
your movements.
if you
Um,
move too fast or
yeah,
something.
I know, now I'm, like, scared to make, like, these big moves.
And we got new
So
lighting.
we did get new lighting and all that stuff. Uh, Next time though, we'll have a stay still camera and we won't have to get up. But yeah, we're very excited about our podcast room and kind of ramping it up again and getting back to it.
Yep, I'm excited. So,
Mm.
well, thank you again for
Mhm.
tuning in.
Mhm.
Go out there and watch that master class. It's free. And, you have any questions, drop it in the comment and we'll be happy to help you figure out your compounding way to leaving the corporate world. So,
Yes,
all right.
exactly.
Kelsey, good to see you again.
Good to see
All
you.
right. Love you.
Love you.
Bye bye.
Bye.